You'll Never Walk Alone, the Tweedle Sisters' Last Stand by Jim Cogan. Most people call me dumb, even though it's not my name and I'm anything but. I have my sister to thank for that. I always thought the older one was supposed to torment the younger, but not in our case. My name used to be Dominique, you see, until one day it wasn't. We were girls back then. It was Christmas and I was busy building a snowman in the garden. She crept up behind me, snipped at the name tag from the back of my new party dress, lopped off the last two syllables of Dominique, and decapitated the O like some vengeful queen with a boiled egg. By the time I turned round, all I could see were her footprints in the snow. On checking my wardrobe, I found she'd done the same with all my other clothes. And because our family has the greatest respect for the written word, my name was changed forever. Dumb. I didn't speak for nearly a year. But the following Christmas, I got my revenge. Back then, everyone already knew my little sister as Dee, short for Delilah of all things. Dee, little Dee, so cute, so tasty. Until the day I found out it's derived from the Hebrew for hairy. I made sure word got out. That Christmas, everyone called her Santa and did the beard-stroking gesture. And there was nothing she could do about it, because she'd written her name in all her exercise books. Oh boy, did she make a fuss. Accused me of souring her flavour socially. But then she'd robbed me of my uniqueness. Small wonder we haven't met each other's eyes in 40 years.
Don't let on, but I've eyeballed her far more recently than that. Sometimes, if it's the middle of the night and she's snoring one of her really special snores, I can't help it. I just think, stuff the bloody rules. And instead of facing my side, as per protocol, I turn my head and I look straight at her. There, beside me, on the mattress. Honestly, the size of that mouth. It's like a fucking lunar eclipse. She just disappears behind it. Roll the boulder back across the entrance, dumb! I shout, and I snap my gaze back upwards before she wakes. She is a stickler for rules, is dumb. And I respect that. So am I. Most of the time. Because they work. If your physical connection is constant, day and night, then you must find other ways to give each other space. We manage this by never looking at each other. Apart from in the mirror, of course, and that's more than enough. We stand like this, the two of us, both facing forward but back to back. Our clothes velcro together at the join. Tailors have retired on our business. In the shower, we use pipe cleaners to scour the crevices between our spines. We never turn our heads towards each other. My eyes can swivel as far as they want in her direction, but all that does is make her throb a little harder on the periphery of my vision. Most people assume we're conjoined. Siamese, if you want to be un-PC. But it's always been completely voluntary.
is easier than you might assume. At least it was before we went on the lam.
We complement each other perfectly, you see.
She's tall, I'm short.
I'm practical. She's artistic.
She's a blonde, I'm a redhead.
I'm a talker. She's reserved.
She's bilious, and I'm phlegmatic.
I'm young, and she's ancient. There are 30 whole minutes between us.
She's city, and I'm united.
I'm ravishing, and she's divine. It's a wonder anyone can tell us apart.
After the tit-for-tat name sabotage of our 9th and 10th Christmases, we might never have spoken to each other again had it not been for end-stage renal disease. Dee gave me one of her kidneys, you see, thereby saving my life. We were both fully anaesthetised throughout the procedure, of course, and yet there's a memory there. We both have it. It can't be real because things are never done that way. Donors and recipients are kept on the same floor of the hospital, but in different rooms. Yet, at some point during our recovery, a scene presented itself to us both independently and stayed. The two of us, side by side on separate operating tables, our cantilevered arms stretched out across the gap, splayed fingers touching. We've described it to each other countless times. The masked heads bobbing under tinsel-fringed ceiling lights, footsteps out in the corridor, the calm night surf breathing of the surgeon, the beeps and hums from the machinery. It couldn't have been cornier if Clooney himself had appeared. And yet, it's ours. Not a real memory, but who knows, some weird emotional echo, a stray nebula of meaning floating between us. Whatever the case, it has governed the course of both our lives.
A few months after the operation, in the rudest of health, we stood facing each other at opposite ends of the street where we lived. When Dum started running, I did too. We met at full sprint in the middle, colliding with sufficient force to knock ourselves unconscious for a moment and to confirm, via that childish, symbolised attempt at fusion, that I was in her and she in me, and that we were one. We've been inseparable ever since, literally.
We decided to make the symbolic real, to consciously couple, if you like.
Before our recent brush with the law, we'd lived happily together for years in the same flat above Kilburn High Road. The only time we ever changed body position was at work.
Or if we got into a fight, which happens more than you might suppose.
At such times, back-to-back makes perfect tactical sense. Like Porthos and Aramis.
Tango and cash.
For me, working in finance, it meant there was nowhere for your rivals to stab you. In a fist fight, it meant our kidneys were always protected. Having only one each, it was somewhere neither of us could afford to take a punch. The bankers, well, they quickly got used to having Dum at meetings, velcroed to my back as I wheeled and dealt. She'd busy herself with a sketchbook or shoulder-mounted easel, interpreting everything she saw with astounding technical skill. Although her work depicted little more than the cubicles and the meeting rooms of Canary Wharf, well, it earned some very respectable reviews.
The Lowry of the Liber, they called me. After all those hunched figures I drew, trudging like zombies across Reuters Plaza. In evenings, we'd sit at home with a bottle of Amontillado, looking out at the street and discussing whatever took our fancy. Existentialism, usually, or Zen, or string theory, or what to do if a barroom brawl gets taken to ground. We really did get into a lot of fights for two middle-aged ladies. But then, Dee's a Bourbon girl, and I do so love my Stella. So, it's hardly a surprise. We were known in all the pubs, and the regulars quickly learned respect. But there's always some creep who needs educating. I mean, I am fairly easygoing. I don't mind having my décolletage complimented if it's done subtly and with flair. But a man has to know his boundaries, or rather our boundaries. There'll be no whispering of sweet nothings to me while your fingers oh so accidentally feather my twins' shapely derriere. If that happens, there's going to be drama, and if you've got a few mates with you, they can fucking join in the ensemble, no problem.
Dum's trained in Muay Thai, whereas I'm Wing Chun. Punch and kick-based stuff, mostly. It's hard to master a fighting art with your twin sister attached to your back, believe me. But we managed it. It's also nigh on impossible to practice ground fighting when you're virtually incapable of falling over. You do wonder if one day that weakness may cost you, and the day invariably comes when you find out.
It was Christmas Eve in the Ferret and Firkin. Wall-to-wall pissheads in silly hats and tinsel falling in your beer. For a joke, we'd snuck into the gents and hung mistletoe above the urinal trough. And, well, you know how suggestible some fellas are. In no time, the brawl had spread all the way to the bar and everyone was joining in. Now, I just stepped back to avoid some bastard's haymaker, and I felt Dee slip behind me on the wet floorboards. A moment later, she's on all fours, and I'm on her back as well as on my back, helpless as a tortoise. Or so I thought.
I think instinct just took over. I started rotating there, on the spot, as fast as I could, still on my hands and knees. I'm aware that more and more guys were entering the melee, trying to overwhelm us with numbers. I knew Dum was completely exposed up there, but all I could do was, well, carry on spinning and trust her to do the right thing.
I lay there, pedaling my legs as I went round and round, taking out kneecaps. Bang, 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 bang. And those pussies, they're dropping like flies. It's brilliant. On the way past a table, I grab an empty eggnog bottle in each hand, smash them together and start opening veins. Now, Dee's really into it. She crab walks across the room and shins up the underside of the mezzanine, so now I'm the one underneath. While I'm hanging there among the fairy lights, I bag myself a couple of scalps. I can hear Dee shouting,
"Let's get the fuck out of Dodge!"
And I say, "Yes, dearie, let's do that."
Outside, it's a solid wall of cop cars. Blue strobes bouncing off the falling snow, shells clicking into chambers, the lot. I decide there's nothing for it but to charge them. That takes them by surprise. And we manage to break through the cordon, and then we crab sprint all the way home. We each pack a small bag, then we disappear.
We'd love to tell you where we live now, but we can't, for your own safety.
That said, you may come across us sometimes, whilst walking in some far-flung forest. Or rather, you'll come across our hiding place, but you won't know it's a hiding place. And of course, there'll be no sign of us. Although, sometimes, especially in the winter, when the snow lies thick and silent, you might think you can hear the forest talking.
It talks in the voices of two middle-aged ladies each telling the other to please just fuck the fuck off if you don't like it, because that's how I've always basted a turkey, and I'm not about to change now.
And anyway, if I fuck off, you're coming with me, sweetie. That's us, in hiding.
We survive as soldiers of fortune.
Criminals think of us in terror, and the common people with awe. In the popular imagination, we are fused together as one.
Their name for us, Crab Woman.
AKA Bar Crawler.
AKA Octopussy.
Our base is an abandoned twitcher's hide, so thickly clad with turf that even the squirrels think it's a hillock. In our spare time,
There's a lot of that.
we've taken up bird watching.
It's my ambition to see a budgie.
Since we've been in the neighbourhood, there's been zero crime. Even the foxes don't try anything.
So, if you've any dirty work in mind, we suggest you move on.
There's a bridge, a brook up ahead with a little stone bridge.
We recommend you cross it and make your way back to civilization.
And while you're at it, do be good. For goodness sake.
Because if you don't, you'll have the Tweedle sisters to deal with.